What's up, everybody? My name is Joe Brown. This is the Heresy Financial Show, and today we are talking about what it looks like to have things repriced into a new currency on the back of an existing currency's failure. There are many examples of this happening all throughout history. Every time you have a government that gets too deep into debt and then starts having to finance its spending and its debt through inflationary financing, aka the money printer, expanding the total money supply, you wind up with that currency eventually failing. Every time has happened to every single fiat currency that has gone through those pitfalls, except for the 8 to 12 remaining today. So we're going to talk about that, what it looks like, so that you can be on the lookout for these signs yourself as we move forward. Ready? Let's dive in. Real quick, first, I'd like to invite you to join me in Dallas May 6th through May 8th. It is for the Market Disruptors live event. It's going to be a fantastic event. Plenty of great speakers there. I'd love for you to join me, see you there, get some drinks with you, and have a good talk. It'll be a great event again this year. Link is in the description below. All right, so many times throughout history, we've seen fiat currencies fail, or we've just seen monetary systems fail that end up diluting their currency too much, even if it's not fiat, even if it's a gold-based or a silver-based monetary system. If they end up diluting the coins too much and expanding the money supply by taking old good money out of circulation, melting it down and then recoining it with less gold or silver content, putting it back into circulation and expanding the monetary supply that way. We've seen many examples of this where that ultimately is the final nail in the coffin. That's the seal of death for these currencies. But many people today are looking around, they're saying, hey, I own stocks, I own real estate, we're going shopping for food, for gas. What does life actually look like when a currency is failing? Because, to be honest, it is not failing yet. You still go to the grocery store and spend your US dollars. You still go to work and get a paycheck in US dollars. You still go into your brokerage account online and you buy a stock, you pay in US dollars. You go to your gold dealer and the gold dealer is telling you, hey, gold is real money, and you give him what for gold? US dollars. And so even despite the inflation that we've seen, even despite the manipulation and the destruction of the monetary system by policymakers that we've seen recently, the US dollar is still the currency in America and in many countries around the world, and it's still the global reserve currency. We could all talk about how long that will last, but what I want to give you is tools to look out for to say, hey, this is a sign that it is changing, because so far it's not quite changing yet. No, the number one thing that we need to do then is to look at countries who have gone through currency changes and what it looks like. And so, I've got friends who live in Lebanon right now. They've got the highest rate of hyperinflation in the world. They're the world leaders for hyperinflation, not the stat that you want your country to be number one in the world for right now. So I've got some friends that live there and have told me about what it's like. And initially, one of the things that starts happening is that you go from, you're going around your daily business and you're just paying in your regular currency. So I'm just going to say dollars, since that's what most people are familiar with in their mind. So you go to the store, dollars, go to your job, you get dollars, same thing, right? Well, pretty slowly, an alternative pops up. Not an alternative for how things are priced, but how things are paid. And so you start to get alternatives where people say, hey, you can get paid in a different currency, or hey, if you'd like, you don't have to pay me dollars, you can pay me a different currency for this instead. Sorry for that noise, I just hit the microphone there. So you go to the grocery store and you have the option. When you swipe your card at the little machine, it'll say, hey, would you like to pay in US dollars, or would you like to pay in Bitcoin, or would you like to pay in gold, or would you like to pay in euros, or would you like to pay in rubles? Whatever it is, whatever you think it might be, you start to get more options. And that is the merchant, that is the seller of that good saying, hey, we're probably going to be buying this alternative currency anyway when you give us the dollars. So we're just going to be upfront with you, and we're going to give you the option to give us that upfront so we don't have to make the exchange ourselves. So that is stage one. That is payment options. We've seen certain professional athletes or celebrities or politicians recently say, hey, I want to get my salary paid in Bitcoin. So the stage one is you start to see options for payment crop up everywhere, where people who are selling something or are going to get a payment in something start to give options and say, hey, you can give it to me in a different form of money. Now, I want to be clear. This is not by itself a big deal. This is one step in that direction, but by itself, it's not a big deal because the thing itself is still priced in dollars, still denominated in dollars. So if you were there and you were just watching the price of something, you were watching the price of a gallon of milk. $4 for a gallon of milk. You're watching that. That $4 doesn't change. $4, $4, $4. And let's say hypothetically the store is saying you can pay in dollars or Bitcoin. The Bitcoin amount will change. You'll see $4 and you'll see the amount of Bitcoin that you could give consistently change as the market price of Bitcoin changes. That dollar price of the gallon of milk will stay the same. You'll have to give a different amount of Bitcoin in order to get that milk. Now, it's important to keep in mind that these choices, this option is only going to come about in the free market, in private markets. You're not going to see this with state-sponsored, state-controlled goods. You're not going to have the federal government say to you, hey, you owe us taxes. You can either give us dollars or Bitcoin for those taxes. It's not going to happen. You're also not going to see it happen with things like stocks. You're not going to go to buy, Apple or Amazon and be able to say, hey, I don't want to give you dollars. I want to give you Bitcoin instead. That's not going to happen in stage one. Now, the next stage, which is a slow transition, is the volatility change. What you start to notice is that after the choices of payment are widely accepted, you start to notice one of them, which was more volatile and the price was changing before, starts to become more stable, and the other one turns more volatile. So a good example of this is in Lebanon. Their local currency, they'll have three prices for something, basically. One of them is a credit card price. We'll just put that one to the side right now because it doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about here. You're going to have the dollar price, and you're going to have the local lira or pound, used interchangeably there, that price. What you notice there is that the local currency price changes rapidly. The dollar price of something does not. So if you look at, why is the local currency price changing for this loaf of bread, this gallon of water, whatever I need to buy? If I want to go get that, then the amount of local currency I need to provide will be constantly changing throughout the week, throughout the day, every time I go in, and I have to look at the new number of units of that currency that I need, but the dollar amount will not really change that much. And that's because you've made a transition from paid in something to priced in something. This transition has taken place because the vendors, the sellers of something that are used to say, hey, I'll accept gold, or I'll accept Bitcoin, or I'll accept euros, or I'll accept dollars, or I'll accept something for payment. They're now recognizing, hey, unless if I'm just accepting that for payment and I'm keeping my prices stable in the local currency, I'm losing money really quickly because the value of the currency is changing so quickly. I need to price my goods in something that doesn't change as quickly. That way I don't get screwed. And so you start to see more and more switching from things being paid in Bitcoin or euros or gold or other currencies to being priced in those other currencies. So suddenly you go and you'll say, hey, if you're watching the price of a gallon of milk, it'll be, a half an ounce of silver for a gallon of milk, or a quarter ounce of silver for a gallon of milk. You'll be watching it, and the quarter ounce of silver won't change. It'll stay the same, but the number of dollars it will take to get that milk will start to change. So you notice things start to get repriced, denominated in the new currency, and that is a big change. Now, at this point, you're still going to notice this mostly from private markets. You're not going to notice this change happen with government-controlled markets. You're not going to notice this change happen in, let's say, America, in healthcare, in military, in government salaries, in Social Security, in pensions, in anything, in taxes, in anything that the federal government controls. You're not going to see these changes take place. These changes start to happen very quickly at the ground level, at the small business level, at the private market level, and it's not until the federal government is forced to make the change that the entire system will finally switch over. And at that point, once people no longer accept, like right now in Lebanon, if you're selling bread, you're still by law required to accept the local currency. You're just going to be changing your prices all day to make sure that you can instantly turn it into something more stable like euros or dollars, so that you don't get screwed out of the purchasing power. So the number of local currency you're going to accept is constantly increasing. So at some point, though, you're going to go to the store and you're going to try and get something, and the store owner's just going to look around. They're going to say, you know what? Nope, I'm not going to accept the local currency. In Lebanon, they might say, hey, I'm no longer going to accept the lira. They might accept the dollar. They might accept the pound. They might accept Bitcoin or gold. But at some point, people stop accepting the local currency because it's just not worth it to go through the hassle of accepting such a large quantity to just exchange it for something that is more stable. So at some point you go to the store, you go to pay your rent. At some point people stop accepting the currency. At that point, that is the next stage when people, by and large, everywhere, stop accepting the local currency. That is where it basically becomes worthless. It takes very little amount of time, a couple of months at most, and during that phase transition, it becomes worthless. It just it loses any exchange rate. Anybody who has anything won't be willing to give it up to get that currency, so the value then goes to zero. And so at that point, then the government is forced, the entire system is forced to choosing a new currency. And usually it's the people who choose the new money. The government will follow whatever the people have chosen and make it official later on. But normally, historically speaking, whatever the people have chosen to start using as the new monetary system already is what the government is going to just accept and adopt, because they have to accept the new money that people will want to take for payment if the government wants any sort of power. They want to be able to pay people to enforce the laws. If they want to be able to pay people in order to accomplish their goals, they're going to have to pay people in something that the people actually want to accept. And so usually the governments will just go for whatever currency, whatever money the people have already accepted. And at that time, then you start to see things like the stock exchanges. You start to see things like taxes. Everything flips over and you start paying in that new currency. The thing to remember about this whole phase, this whole transition here, is that nothing happened to the stocks. They still exist. Nothing happened to the real estate. It still exists. Nothing happened to the goods and the services. It all still exists. The only thing that changed was how it was priced and what people were willing to exchange it for. Imagine like a barter system. Currency is just one half of the transaction. And so the only thing that changed is what people are willing to accept it for, but it's still there. That means if the United States switched over from dollars to euros, or dollars to yen, or dollars to Bitcoin, or dollars to gold, you'd still have the stock market and real estate and everything that we have today. You just have a different way of pricing them. Instead of saying, hey, one share of Amazon costs, $2,000 right now, you'd say one share of Amazon costs 1 ounce of gold. And so you'd start to price things in the new money, in Bitcoin, gold, euros, yen, whatever it is. Take a look with me here at pricedingold.com. This highlights what I've been talking about just now. We can see here that the commercial this website is a great reference point for you if you want to see how the prices of things have fared over the long term when looking at the price of gold and looking at, hey, if gold was if you were using gold to measure the price of things, what would their charts look like? So if we look at the commercial property price index from 1998, this blue line is going to be what if we were pricing commercial property in gold. So you can see here, it has gone down over time. Obviously, this green line, this is priced in dollars. It has gone up. So what this is showing us is that in real terms, commercial property has gotten cheaper. In dollar terms, it has gotten more expensive. If we look at U.S. home prices, the Case-Shiller U.S. home price index, we can see obviously in dollar terms, housing prices have gotten very expensive over the last few decades. Priced in gold, housing prices have stayed relatively the same. They've moved largely sideways. And that's because in real terms, real things like homes depreciate in value. And any technology that improves the quality of the home. Homes are increasing in size over the last few decades, increasing in quality in some ways. And so, yeah, you're going to expect that in real terms, a depreciating asset that over time starts to get better and bigger will probably, on average, stay about the same. We're not seeing a bubble in home prices in the US when priced in something like gold. We are seeing it if you're pricing it in dollars, but that's not real. That's just the value of the dollar going down. And so you start to see when things switch over, if people start using a new form of money, especially a stable form of money, that the supply can't be artificially changed at the will of policymakers, you start to see the real price, the real value being reflected. And so when you look at, hey, stocks right now, they'll still exist once we're pricing them in a new money at some point in the future. But when you realize, hey, they're going to be priced with real money, you're not having to make the choice between dollars, which are losing their value quickly, and a company that is maybe making gains in nominal terms, but you always have to question and calculate whether it's making gains in real terms. Everything starts to be priced in the new money. And when you can move forward in a deflationary monetary system just by saving and working hard, and you get a real return on your money through deflation just by saving, then it makes everybody rethink, hey, the risk-free return is just saving money is positive. Then you really have to question, hey, how much risk am I willing to take? And so a lot of these high growth, high risk assets that are priced at huge multiples are very expensive. And if you live in a monetary system that is not expansionary, that does not increase drastically over time, then those valuations likely, when everything is repriced in new currency, would be much lower, would come down as rationality sets in to economic decisions. Hope this makes sense. I know this was a little bit of a different conversation than we normally have. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments section below. As always, really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.